Earlier in this topic, we looked at three different types of return: realized return, expected return, and required return. We went on to calculate the realized return and the expected return from a single investment, such as a share. In this module, we will look at the realized and expected return from a portfolio rather than a single share. A portfolio is simply an investment that comprises two or more different shares, or two or more different financial assets. The realized return and expected return from a portfolio are calculated in a very similar way. The realized return from a portfolio is the weighted average of the realized returns from the shares in the portfolio, and the expected return from a portfolio is equal to the weighted average of the expected returns from the shares in the portfolio. Recall that when we calculated the expected return from a single share, it was the weighted average of the possible returns from the share, weighted by the probability of each of those possible returns occurring. In this module, the realized return and expected return are also calculated using weighted averages, but the weightings we will use are the value of each share in proportion to the total value of the portfolio. Note that just as was the case with probabilities, all of the weights must add up to 1. This is the formula for the realized return from a portfolio. We take the realized return from each share, multiply that by the weighting of that share in the portfolio, and then add up the weighted realized returns. This is the formula for the expected return from a portfolio. It is very similar to the formula we just looked at for the realized return, but we calculate the weighted average of the expected returns from each share in the portfolio. We take each expected return, multiply that by the weighting of that share in the portfolio, and then add up the weighted expected returns.